Well, Happy New Year to all. Thanks so much for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber yet, please all go over there and click on that button. So, with 2018 rolling up on us now, we thought that we would create a list of our top 10 most enjoyable movies. And quick disclaimer here, guys, I just want you to know that these aren't necessarily the films that we thought were the best of 2017.
Just the ones we liked the most out of them.
Yeah,
we enjoyed a lot.
Exactly. I feel like it's one of those things where if you go into the film with an objective mind, there's no way that you're not going to enjoy these movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to start things off, we've got
Number 10.
So number 10 on our list is
Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is a really enjoyable comic book movie. I think as far as Marvel movies go, it was nice because it kind of broke that formula that they're kind of getting known for. It's more of like a sci-fi type movie and more of a comedy type movie about a team rather than a solo person. The only negative thing I might say would be if they, at some points, they step on some serious moments with some jokes. But it's really an overall enjoyable movie, and it's a cast of characters that you definitely want to see again. You know what I mean?
For sure, and I feel like a good thing with Guardians 2 is just everybody kept feeling the same process of when you went into Guardians 1, you had such low expectations, and when you went into Guardians 2, you had the high expectations.
Yeah.
And so people didn't have the same feelings that they did going into Guardians 1, but I feel like Guardians 2 is just as enjoyable as a movie as the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it's as good as the first one, at least.
Number 9.
So the next one up on our list is Little Evil or Little Devil. If you watched it as its initial release, they changed the name of it. I really liked this film. I thought it was very, very enjoyable. I thought it was different. There's a big thing going on around nowadays where it's very hard to make a horror movie without having it be somewhat laughable. Sometimes people just like to laugh at the people being terrorized. And I think the opposite's true too. I think it's very hard to make a comedy movie and have some legit scary and, creepy moments in them. And I think that Little Evil did a good job at sort of making those moments feel like they were real moments.
Yeah, it did a good job of balancing out the comedy, because a lot of times in horror movies, if something is funny, it's not supposed to be funny. And they did a good job of making everything like a parody type deals.
Yeah, and I definitely felt like there's a reason for why these films are rare, and definitely it really worked well to that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8.
Number 8 is Thor Ragnarok. I like Thor Ragnarok for a lot of the same reasons I like Guardians 2. It's just a really fun superhero movie. I liked it a lot more than I liked the first two Thor movies. Thor is he's probably my least favorite, movie character of the Marvel ones, but I really liked this one. I think they did a really good job of balancing out comedic moments and serious moments. Like I said, my one problem in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was that sometimes the serious moments kind of got stepped on a little bit. I feel like in Thor they did a really good job of balancing it. But overall, it tells a really good story. It's really funny. It's a good movie.
Number 7.
So number 7 is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. So the reason I like Jumanji so much is that I went into the theater with absolutely no expectations. I'm a big fan of the actors in it, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and The Rock. I'm very, very big fans of these, but I really didn't know what this was going to be. I had no expectations. I was actually very thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Number 6.
Number 6 is Wonder Woman. Definitely, probably the best of the DC movies so far. Probably enjoyed Justice League more, but Wonder Woman's probably the best of them. But I think they did feminism in a really, good way, because they really didn't hit you in the face with it. They didn't, they never really were saying anything like she can do anything a man can do. She was just doing it. It was just a movie where she was starring, doing these things. It did a great job.
I agree, and I think that with Wonder Woman, it's one of those things where you legit feel like she's Wonder Woman, and you legit feel like this entire World War I atmosphere is so much more than what other films have done. I'm going to use Captain America as an example. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel to me as gritty and as dark as the Wonder Woman film did.
Yeah.
And I think that's a true testament to Patty Jenkins and her directing style and sort of like how nitty-gritty that she wanted to get with this to show you sort of the oppression and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. They showed war really well. You got that. And it worked really cool, too, with the character because it was her going into this war atmosphere and seeing it as an outsider and how terrible things are and being that like optimism in this terror. So.
Number 5.
So number 5 was called Get Out. I really liked Get Out. I have not heard anyone say a bad thing about Get Out. I think it was a phenomenal movie. I think it touched upon a lot of things that people may or may not have been scared to touch on. And I think definitely for sure nobody was expecting this to come out of Jordan Peele. I think the best thing about Get Out was that even though you have a very far-fetched plot going on right now, I won't leave any spoilers for this, but if you watch the film, you'll understand that it's really very far-fetched. But the way it's done is so very intricate and real that you almost feel like this could have happened somewhere in, a small town in Pennsylvania or something like that. You feel like that this might be real, and that's the scariest part about the film.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Logan. Logan's just a great movie overall. It's a really good way to end this story that kind of started over a decade ago with X-Men, because it really focused on Wolverine coming in and his perspective of everything, and this really ends it with, the end of his time. It has definitely a different feel from the other X-Men movies, besides maybe the Wolverine, but they did a great job. They did a good job with Professor Xavier and kind of his future, and showing where these characters went after the last X-Men movie, basically. It doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It feels like a general action type movie that happens to take place in the X-Men universe.
Definitely. The way that they did that was they didn't focus on the powers as much. Mm-hmm. Really, any mutants that existed in the whole movie were Logan, who couldn't really use his powers to the full potential.
Yeah.
Professor X, who couldn't use his powers at all. If he did, then you know what would happen.
Yeah.
So I think that having that limit on it made it feel less like a comic book movie and more like a man being chased.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 3.
So number 3 is War for the Planet of the Apes. I don't think that there's been a better character journey throughout, in modern day than Caesar is between Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes.
Definitely.
I think that just being able to see this character from his inception, from his birth, growing all the way to the end of the movie, I think that just everything about it is just so rich and so... It feels like everyone working on this film really, really put everything they had into it. Mm-hmm. And in some of those scenes, Woody Harrelson, I feel like, stole the show.
Definitely.
And then Andy Serkis kind of took that show and then shoved it back tenfold. The scenes between them two together were just golden between each other, and I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I love the trilogy of it in the end and how it all came together.
Oh, definitely. The thing with the old Planet of the Apes movies, it has a lot of nostalgia to it, and that's kind of the appeal at this point. But this is just a really well done new age version of the movie, as if it happened today. They did a really good job with the apes, making them actually feel you have emotion for them. Which a lot of that goes to people like Andy Serkis doing the motion capture of it. But
it's interesting too, because if you have the Blu-ray version of it, if you happen to see that version, they have a separate film that's after it where they show a lot of behind the scenes stuff with it. I watched a little bit of that, and it kind of just shows you how much Andy Serkis did with the facial recognition, and it also shows you the progression of the CGI between Rise and War. And it's just, it's really cool. It's really cool just to see where we were and where we are now.
How things have progressed.
Definitely. And it's very symbolic.
Yeah.
Number 2.
All right, guys. Well, this is going to be probably where a lot of people sort of divert or have different opinions.
50% of people.
50% of people are going to be like, oh, what are you doing right now?
Particularly critics.
But take it away, my good friend.
Our number 2 is Justice League. I will admit I'm very biased in my love for Justice League because I've always been a comic book fan, and I've always been a comic book fan that likes Marvel and DC, but I've always been more embedded in the DC universe. And this definitely sets up that universe and those characters, and it's awesome to see those characters on the big screen portrayed that way. I think it's just it's a fun movie. It's a lot lighter than the other DC movies, which was a complaint they got a lot. I think that Superman is portrayed really well. I think if you could do a solo Superman movie with his personality from Justice League and the gravity of Man of Steel, Because, like, the great thing about Superman is that he has, like, a normal mentality. And it's kind of that normal mentality trying to make decisions that affect the entire planet. So if you take that gravity and this personality and make a movie out of it, that would be really good. I think all of the characters were really well portrayed in it, and it was just a really fun movie.
And though the characters may not have been spot on, cookie cutter, cut right out of the comic book, I think that they were changed for a better reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of, let's be honest, Justice League did not have a lot going towards it. I mean, there's rumors that 40 minutes were cut off the editing table. Zack Snyder had an unfortunate tragedy while, in the editing room, and there had to be reshoots. And honestly, if you didn't know about the reshoots and you didn't know about the stash, I've talked to a lot of people who didn't, and most of them don't really know about these things. So, like I said, if you go into this movie with a completely open mind...
I was going to say, like you said, if you go into it just wanting to enjoy a movie, you're probably going to enjoy it.
It's a lot of fun.
If you go in looking for flaws, there are a lot of flaws to find. Like,
there's cracks.
Between all of the things, not having enough time to put in the CGI, not having, the same director throughout, there are a lot of things you can call out on, but I think there's a lot of good too.
Number 1.
All right, number 1 for us is It. Yes, It. The remake of the Stephen King TV movie that happened in the 80s, well, it's back. And it's better than ever. Honestly, I felt that it was a perfect horror movie. And as you can see, we're critics. We're film critics. We're sitting here analyzing and talking about films. There's a bit of criticism to us, but I think that there was nothing wrong with that movie. I felt everything was built upon it. You had characters. You had amazing characters that worked well with each other, that were different enough from another. But it wasn't just that they had to deal with this paranormal clown. It was that they had to all deal with real life things as well. All of these kids had a unique story to tell, and each one of them had to deal with real life issues that existed back in that time, and even some that exist during this time now. And that's the real scary part, is because when they're not dealing with paranormal clowns, they have to deal with their real life issues. And though, it might not have been the biggest jump scare movie in the world, I think it works a lot better that way because it makes you feel so much more, and it makes you think about these things later, like, holy shit, like...
It's more scary than startling.
Exactly.
Because that's my problem with a lot of horror movies, is they're startling. They have a lot of jump scares, but when you walk out, you're not afraid of anything from the movie anymore.
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, the movie's done. I'm safe now. That's fine. But this movie takes you to a place where it makes you think, well, no, those problems existed, and they still exist now today. And I'm really excited, looking forward to the sequel of It. Well, there you go, guys. That is our top 10 most enjoyable list. Do you agree with our top 10? Or do you probably disagree? If you do, leave us a comment.
No one can disagree with us.
We're the best. We're absolutely the best.
Yeah.
But
we're the most enjoyable.
We are the most enjoyable. You're right.
From our own point of view.
From a very personalized, biased point of view. Anyway, if you did want any other specific, if you had any other movies that you feel like should have made this list, or feel like any movies that shouldn't have made this list, comment down in the comments below. Let us know. But until then...
Also give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
So yeah, with that, guys, I'm MD from Observed Media.
I'm John from Observed Media.
And we'll see you guys next week.
No, we won't. We'll talk to them. We don't see them. They see us.
Why you gotta be like that, man?
Why you gotta play me?
I'm just gonna keep that in. Why you gotta be like that, man?